You descend into the ancient winding streets of Ukaizo. Battered by storms for thousands of years, the ruins bear the marks of their role as the lone witnesses of the god's great secret at the center of the city. The houses and boulevards are pierced by great spears of luminous Audra. There are no ashen bodies, no birds, no sign or sound of any life. But with every step, the rhythmic pounding in the distance draws nearer. Soon, you can feel the vibration traveling up your spine. As you approach the center of the city, the weathered architecture gives way to more luminous Audra, piercing the ruins, eventually overtaking them entirely. Cresting the top of a fallen tower, you finally get a clear view of Aethys. He stands, legs astride, next to a great stone monument ringed with 11 cavernous alcoves. All but 3 hold a gargantuan skeleton, bones scrubbed clean by the city's storms. An immense Anguithan machine floats above the monument, suspended by invisible energy emanating from a well of light beneath it. Great brass rings spin around a core of metal and Audra at the machine's center. Periodically, Aethys's massive arms swing back. The movement alone is enough to draw great gusts of wind toward him. When they come down on the machine, the impacts are accompanied by eruptions of electricity, fire, and smoke. The hundreds of luminous Audra pillars across Ukaizo sympathetically dim in a rippling wave that spreads out from the machine. The only safe route to the god is a steep ascent along a monstrous pillar of luminous Audra. Intertwined with fragments of Ukaizo's ruins that it has carried through the centuries, the pillar bends in a long arc, towering above the machine. The pillar levels out near Aethys's head, a silent observer to the destruction of the machine it has grown beside over thousands of years. You weave your way along a treacherous rain-slicked path up the pillar's skyward side. As you arrive at the top, you catch Aethys's attention. Fist pulled back, he pauses to observe you. With the same gentleness he showed at Ashen Maw, he lowers his arm and turns toward you.
This way. It may be hard to picture, but this city was once full of life. The Huana, yes, but also kith from many other cultures. Great hanging trees shadowed these boulevards. Gardens sprawled across the open rooftops. Each spring, a festival procession would wind its way from the hillside into this valley. The celebrants would pass through a steep walk among the stalls of foreign merchants, flowers falling upon them from all sides. All people of all nations, together in a celebration of new life. Such was the power and beauty of lost Ukaizo.
If we don't fix this mess you're about to cause, the whole world is gonna look this bad. I mean, it's a mighty heavy load you're putting on our shoulders. I just hope we can carry it.
As long as there are people like you in this world, Adair, I truly do. This power has always been in the grasp of mortals. Now you will finally be aware of it. Now you will be able to decide what to do with it.
What right do you have to do this? Destroy the wheel and leave us with nothing? Without even knowing what will come next?
Aloth, we are all gods and mortals, responsible for our own actions. But inaction carries its own moral responsibility. It is a burden I have carried for far too long. One must always do as their conscience dictates, even if that means abdicating a position of power.
Rawatai gave everything they had to reach this place. In the end, they fell short of hitting the mark. Will we ever have another chance to prosper? Or was this damn island our last hope?
Only you can answer that question, Maya. Rawatai has persevered through great adversity. The storms that ravaged your homeland have ended, but that in itself may present new challenges for your people. It is my hope that after I am gone, Rawatai will work together with its rivals to create a new world, instead of fighting over the ruins of the old.
I want you to know, I appreciate what you are doing.
But Pallegina, you do so only because in this, you foresee the death of my kin. We have wronged you. We have wronged all mortals for far too long. But after this moment, you may see a change in my brothers and sisters. Humility can be good for the soul, even a god's. But what of you, Watcher? Why have you followed me? Have you come to bear witness to the breaking of the wheel? It is pity for mortals that drives me, Watcher. I have felt it in every step I have taken to cross the Deadfire and reach this place. What more would you have me do? It is true. While the eventual restoration of the wheel will bring them relief, they will suffer until that time comes. Thank you for making me think of the lost souls, Watcher. I will provide a haven for them after my work here is finished. Indulge me in a moment's curiosity. There is something I wish to know about Eora, about Kith, that I can only learn through your eyes. You followed me all this way, dodging an armada, navigating an impenetrable wall of storms, voyaging across uncharted seas, besting a guardian who existed to bar your trespass, with the machinations of gods echoing in your ears. And you did so on your own. That is no small achievement. Kith across Eora will hear the tale of it, and look to you with awe. I believe that mortals possess the strength to collaborate and shape a future of their own design. Not all of my brothers and sisters agree. I had hoped your actions would set an example for the future, demonstrating the resilience and ingenuity of mortals when they work together. Coming to Ukaizo unencumbered by alliances proves a different point than the one I intended. But it is a valuable one all the same. What inspired your decision, Watcher? Did the choice echo your foundational beliefs? Or were you influenced by observation? I thank you for your perspective. Yours is not the only opinion that concerns me, but for the moment, it offers much to consider. All I ever wanted for mortals was growth, transformation. Once, my brothers and sisters shared this goal. Some have forgotten themselves, giving into fatalism or tyranny. Others have succumbed to apathy. It brings me great sorrow that crisis is the only way to set the future in motion. Would that I could pass the responsibility of heralding your darkest hour to another. You shirked the aid of others and came this far alone. But I think you'll find that the future is built on trust, cooperation, and understanding among Kith. I must attend to my final work now. I cannot delay any longer. You have carried a heavy burden across the Deadfire, Watcher. Before I go, I would rid you of it. You are free now, as free as any of us can be. Many will come to you for help in the years ahead. Animancers, priests, even the gods themselves. I have great hope for you, but always remember that your future is for you to decide. Use your freedom well.
Aethys squares himself to the machine. As you move to a safe distance, he draws his fist back and resumes his assault. The blows rain down with increased fervor, but the machine perseveres in spite of his efforts. Spreading his arms wide, Aethys draws power from the luminous Audra clustered around the valley. The energy courses through his body, limbs overflowing with intense light and waves of heat. He returns to his task, each strike bringing with it the sound of cracking stone and twisting metal, the flickering of luminous Audra across Ukaizo. As the ancient machine finally begins to succumb to his strength, so too does Aethys's body, built to withstand the passage of thousands of years. The great Audra statue has finally been pushed beyond its limits. Cracks appear along the hands, then race up the arms. Aethys does not slow his assault, but continues unabated. Its brass rings twisted, the machine spins erratically but withstands the relentless barrage. Aethys stands astride it and pummels the base of the machine. Soul energy begins to flare out from the machine's heart, warping the air with the intense heat. Aethys drives his right fist into the machine's center, the core of metal and Audra. The god lets out a deafening shout, something between a cry of anguish and a roar of exultation. You see Aethys's arm shatter upward from his hand through his elbow. A flash of light and heat bursts from the core, accompanied by a cacophony of destruction. The moment passes as Aethys's shout echoes throughout the valley. Your eyes begin to recover. The god's work is accomplished. The great machine of Ukaizo has been destroyed. The wheel has been unmade. As Aethys's voice fades, the enormity of what you've accomplished sinks in. You have confronted a god. You have rediscovered the ancient city where the wheel was forged, and you have seen the wheel shattered. What comes next is uncertain, but already the legend spreads of the Watcher who survived Andra's mortar and stood toe-to-toe with Aethys. Maras Nua's body finally goes still amidst the rubble of the Angwithan machines, yet it continues to glow. Priests and mystics have strange dreams of an island of eternal dawn at the eye of a storm, a port where the tide never flows out, a roadside tavern whose door leads only inward. As a watcher, you see what these dreamers cannot. The souls of the departed drifting toward the Audra Colossus and the twilit afterlife within. Whether it is a temporary haven or a permanent end will depend on what the Kith of Eora are able to accomplish on their own. And while Maras Nua stands frozen over Ukaizo, the gods look on the labors of Kith, but they do not intervene. They watch and argue, wager and conjecture at how or whether mortals will solve the puzzle set before them. In reaching Ukaizo and facing Aethys, you have accomplished the impossible, and you have done it without the assistance of the great powers of Deadfire. Your feats capture the awe and imagination of a world that needs heroes more than ever. Some say your intervention prevented Aethys from a far worse act of destruction. Many believe you will be the salvation of Aora. With each day, your legend grows, as does the chaos in Deadfire. Ukaizo remains unclaimed, and the Efekia Channel becomes the site of a near-constant battle as the Huana and the Rawatayans vie for control of the unprotected island. The Rawatayans rely on their cannons, and the Huana call forth massive waves and beasts of the deep to sink their foes. And while they chip away at one another, the Valians and the Principi pursue their own ends with increasing abandon. Emboldened by their rivals' distraction, the Valian Trading Company seizes territory and mines luminous Audra at a startling pace. Huana villages are left at the mercy of unscrupulous speculators, and resource-rich islands are swarmed and stripped. To support their operations, the Valian Trading Company begins shipping ever greater quantities of supplies and luminous Audra to and from the archipelago. This attracts the attention of the Principi, who target these ships with increasing aggression. The promise of fat prizes draws even more pirates to their ranks. The Rawatayans, as well as the Huana, are too busy to stop them. Despite other tensions across the archipelago, Port Maje remains a model of peaceful, productive cooperation between the Huana and the Valian Trading Company. Though they do not always agree, Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa work together for the mutual benefit of their people. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Nekataka transform. With the major powers at one another's throats, Nekataka becomes a maelstrom of chaos. Spies and smugglers follow the flow of refugees into the city, where violence is commonplace. Ukaizo remains the coveted prize, and Nekataka fades into an afterthought. Largely forgotten amidst more prominent concerns, the Gullet continues to be a miserable place, especially for those Raparu who flee to Nekataka seeking a haven amidst the turmoil. For them, the Grand City is a promise cruelly broken. The Watershapers Guild is allowed to remain in Nekataka. Its members continue their arcane art and dream of finding the ancient secrets of their practice. Your brief encounter with Letharn proves deeply influential for the children of the Dawnstars. He comes to recognize his nightmares and the scene at Hisongo as Aethys' final warning to his people. Unite in strength and faith, or perish forever. As word of Aethys' deeds at Ukaizo spreads, his fellow Dawnstars take this message to heart. The children of the Dawnstars respond to Aethys' sacrifice by taking up the lanterns and sickles of the Harvesters of Gone. They become pilgrims of essence, gathering souls across Aora and ferrying them to the haven within the Audra Colossus. Others will repair or rebuild the wheel one day. In the meantime, the Dawnstars will care for the souls of the dead. To the misfortune of many, a group of slavers remains entrenched on Crookspur. While they profit off the misery of Kith, no one is able to stop them. Ships continue to disappear at the southeastern fringe of the archipelago, and stories circulate of a colony of vampires and gulls preying on their crews. The dead flow, an iceberg in the southern sea, continues to grow unchecked. As the ice spreads, so too do wild tales of a hideous dragon rampaging across the Deadfire. Word spreads of the primal island of Kazuwari, once home to an arena that hosted bloody competitions and fearsome ordeals. Wild tales whisper that the spilled blood attracted a terrible beast of scale and fang that slaughtered those gathered at the island before destroying the great enchanted statue that oversaw the island's trials. Absent its guiding voice, Kazuwari descends into anarchy. A vast monstrosity of tentacles and flesh erupts from the Black Isles in the eastern Deadfire, before vanishing into the depths. None know what drives the titanic beast, nor where it will appear next, or what destruction it might wreak when it rises. Though your adventures alter the destiny of Aora and the balance of power in Deadfire, they also leave a lasting mark on those who travel at your side. Your companions find themselves changed, in ways both big and small. In the days sailing back from Ukaizo, Adair finds himself disillusioned with all gods, his own above all. Where the gods have touched Deadfire, he sees only destruction, loss, and emptiness. He casts off all symbols of Aethys, and even begins refusing to use his name. Ultimately, he chooses to remain with you on the Defiant, knowing if any mortal is to have the final word in a conflict with the gods, it will be the Watcher of Cadnua. Shodi is not a priestess who understands the meaning of subtlety. As such, she makes her girlish crush on Adair painfully obvious from the moment she first sets eyes on the strapping fighter. But as you all travel, Adair grows increasingly uncomfortable with her attempts to engender his affection, until he finally takes her aside and sets her straight. He's not interested in a sheltered, overzealous little girl, he explains in so many words. After that, Shodi turns a cold shoulder to him, sometimes forgetting to heal him in the chaos of battle. Or so she claims. Shodi's journey through the Deadfire on your ship is an eye-opening experience for the sheltered farm girl. After many souls harvested, more lives aided, and much adventure had, the priestess declares her intent to rejoin her fellow missionaries at the Temple of Gon in Neketaka. Following a shy grin and an overzealous handshake, Shodi leaves you with an open invitation to visit her anytime. It is some months later when she pens you a missive. Can you hardly believe it? Her chicken scratch handwriting reads. Sawin's sailing for distant lands. She's leaving me in charge of the temple. I've been named the High Priestess of Gon. Aloth renews his commitment to destroying the Leaden Key. With the wheel broken, loosening the god's stranglehold on Kith is more urgent than ever. It is a lofty goal, and one he does not expect to finish in his lifetime. But if there's one thing he's learned from the Watcher, it's that a single person can change the world. Seraphin seems little impacted by your journey. Always knew the gods were larger than me, he tells you, on the evening he decides to part from your company. He's too long put aside those he cares most for. He confesses over a bottle of rum, and he's got leagues to sail to make it right. The following morning, he's gone, leaving only a crude stick figure rendering of Aethys, scrawled into the hull to mark his passage. The Valian Trading Company is initially furious when they learn that Pallegina had assisted the Watcher in claiming Ukaizo. In the chaotic aftermath, the company takes a more nuanced view of Pallegina's actions. The turmoil in the region allows the well-organized company to seize a number of valuable assets from their competitors. Though Pallegina is not rewarded for her actions, nor is she punished, the Dukes and Songreta agree to forget her support of the Watcher. She is quietly reassigned to duty in the Valian Republics, an order she gladly obeys. Although she had made it through her second adventure with the Watcher, Pallegina regrets that she never found her childhood friend, Giacomo. She searches far and wide, across the Deadfire and beyond, but never finds him. Pleased with the Navy's conduct throughout the Deadfire campaign, Maya returns to active duty. She can find a free drink and a sharp salute anywhere she goes in Rawatayan territory. In recognition of her performance, the Navy attempts to give Maya less strenuous work. She flatly refuses, throwing herself into the fray whenever she can. Her rifle never has time to cool. She looks forward to seeing her brother again. So does Ashiza. Your pursuit of Aethys and your journey to Ukaizo signal the end of forces that have shaped the lives of Kith and the course of nations. The cycle of reincarnation has been broken. The storms of Andra's mortar have calmed. Yet each ending promises a new beginning. As the sun rises over Ukaizo, Kith turn their gaze eastward, wondering at what lies beyond, and at the world they will fashion for themselves. As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Bareth, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather,